Assassin's Creed Mirage is going to be a lot shorter than some of the previous Assassin's Creed games, and I actually think that's a very good thing. Because I'm as big of a fan of long, girthy, voluptuous, thick experiences as the next gal, but here's the thing. A lot of games have they're too much. They're too much for me. I will say that some of my favorite video games are huge games. They're things like Skyrim or Fallout New Vegas, just big games like that. I really enjoy these open world huge games, things like Red Dead Redemption. But as someone who, has become an adult now, I'm in my late 20s. I don't know if all of you know my age, but I'm about 28 years old. And I work a lot of hours, ranging from 60 to upwards of 70 hours a week. I just don't have enough time to play through a lot of these games that are just very, very long. The main story of Origins, and I'm going off of howlongtobeat.com, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't memorize the length of games, that's why I'm using this. But the main story of Origins, if you were just kind of pushing through it, was 30 hours. Doing extra content raised it to almost 53 hours, and being a completionist raised it to 84 hours. I want to say first off, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with games being big. But I think that a lot of the times they become a little overwhelming and take a long time for players to beat sometimes. And sometimes they end up being overstuffed as well. Because we get to games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, all of a sudden the story is about 15 hours longer. It's 45 hours. Doing extra content makes it 84. Being a completionist can approach 143 hours. Then we get to Valhalla. The main story is now 60 and a half hours. Main and extra is 97-ish hours. And doing a completionist runs like 143. Over time, if you're playing a game, it sounds like a lot of time, but you play a game for a few hours here and there, over time it adds up, you make your way through a game, and it is what it is. There's nothing wrong with big experiences, but I also do think that one of the biggest critiques of some of these Assassin's Creed RPG games from the fandom is just how big they are, because Ubisoft has a hard time balancing side content with meaningful side content. This is something that we saw going all the way back. I personally don't think the main original games had a big problem with this. I mean, Assassin's Creed 1, I will say probably, I know there's like a portion of the fan base who's like, that's their favorite. I personally think that has some of the weakest side content, basically just going around helping citizens in need, doing flags, races, stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with it. They started improving, the side content, I think, in AC2, and then in Brotherhood and Revelations. But essentially, the Assassin's Creed side content started out as an okay thing. I think it got a lot better. But then by the time of Unity, it was starting to get a little overstuffed again. They were starting to kind of put things in just for the sake of it, like throw chests everywhere so that you have something to do. And I think it's kind of going back in that direction where it's like there's just so much stuff that it's almost padding the length of the game. And I'm actually really excited for this element of Assassin's Creed Mirage. I know that there's a lot of, discussion about, will this game be good or not? And I've participated in that discussion too. That's very valid. But, basically what they're saying is that the average play times that they've received are 20 to 23 hours, which can go up to 25 to 30 hours for completionists. And I'm not saying that future games shouldn't be big. I think you can still do RPG Assassin's Creed games that are huge. But I think that there really is a place for these more normal length games that are not insanely big. Assassin's Creed Revelations is one of my favorite games in the entire franchise. If you're pushing your way through the main story, it's like 12 to 13 hours. If you're doing extra stuff, it goes up to about 21 hours. And if you're running a completionist run, it goes to about 34 hours. So in scope, this seems to be a lot like the Assassin's Creed Revelations length in terms of its overall content. The main story of Mirage actually sounds longer than Revelations, but I guess I should say that the main story of this game, it's still going to be almost, I would say, 2 hours-ish longer than Assassin's Creed 2, and I think a lot of people agree that was a pretty perfect length game. It didn't really overstuff itself. It didn't make it, it didn't try to be long just for the sake of it. It was trying to get to the point while also giving you a good gameplay experience. Another comparable game would be Assassin's Creed 3. The main story itself is about 15 hours, with the extra content added in being about 30 to 31. So the point that I'm getting at here is that I think that this is a very good length, because this is going to actually be more streamlined. They've been talking a little bit about the story and things going on in this game, and it really does seem like the goal is not to remove side content, but to make content more meaningful. I've seen some people say, well, that's because it was supposed to be a DLC. It's not going to be good because it started out as a DLC. Here's the thing, though. I was reading other interviews. That was apparently scrapped within 2 weeks of development. Like, at first, they were drawing it up as a DLC, and within 2 weeks of developing the game, they moved away from that. Now, if you know anything about game development, you know that these things can take years. The fastest games out there are developed in, 2 to 3 years, and that's pushing it. This game has been in the works for a little while, and I'm not really worried about the length. And I think I will make a full-length video in the future discussing the length of games themselves. I wanted to talk about this because I really do feel like a lot of these games in this series, especially later on, and in a lot of series, they feel like they have to give you 150 hours of gameplay per playthrough. And while there's nothing wrong with that type of game, and it's obviously a good value, for your time, if you want to buy a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, say what you will about the game, love it or hate it, it's a good value for what you're paying, right? You're paying the amount of money as most other games, and you're getting a game that's 150 hours if you want to do a completionist run. That's a lot of content to do. But something I've noticed getting older for me is that I just don't have time to engage with that much content in a lot of games. It leads it to where I'm only really completing a handful of games each year, if even, and it's just kind of hard to get through them. And also, I kind of hit a point somewhere through, because you have to chip away at a game that long, that I don't care as much anymore, where I'm just ready to be done. I guess my hope with this is that this is going to be a good game, it's going to sell well, and it's going to send the message in the industry that, hey, look, yes, we have, Ubisoft have been participating in the trend of making games longer, sometimes just for the sake of it, but you don't have to do that. Players are willing to buy a more streamlined experience. Players are willing to engage with an experience that's still long. 25 to 30 hours is not short, but also that isn't made to be 150 hours. I think that there's a place for both types of games. I even think there's a place for both types of games in this series. You can go back. You can make your Isu RPGs. You can do whatever you want. If people don't like them, they don't have to buy them. That's not my problem. My problem is only making those. That's something I talked about before with my criticism with the RPG era, was leaving the classic style behind. A lot of what I'm seeing from Mirage is a blend. It's a blend of both eras of game. It's, taking heavy inspiration from the original. It has some of the similar types of animations from Valhalla, but it's kind of mixing those two together. It's an interesting experiment, and I'm interested to see kind of what happens with it. But in terms of the length itself, this is something I'm really happy with, and I'm hoping that more games are willing to kind of step up and do this. Again, room for both, but I'm really tired of feeling like every game is a full-time job that I have to commit to. I don't want that out of every video game. So I'll probably talk about that more in the future, but even these live service games have gone, especially that way, where there's not even as much content, but they're really, really, really trying to push you to engage with it every single day and play it 40, 50 hours a week, and I don't know, that's too much. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Let me know if you agree or disagree or what you think about the length of this game. Like I said, I think it's good, but room for both. So if you enjoyed today's video, we do also have other channels. I have a Let's Play channel, Degenerate Plays. We played through Assassin's Creed 2. We're currently playing through Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and also a fun Sherlock Holmes game, Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper. So we're playing through some stuff over there along with Elden Ring. My wife Jill has a really fun channel, Magical Jill, where she just put up a Pokemon top 5, which I was in. And also we do have a horror channel, The King of Creepy. Also, if you do want to help support our channel, we do have several ways to do so. We have a Patreon. We also have channel memberships. Both of those have exclusive things as well as videos. Also, we do have our own store, which is enchantedglamour.com or magicaljill.com, spelled as shown. And there are resin coasters, keychains, handmade jewelry, all kinds of really cool stuff there that goes to help support the channel. We make stuff out of repurposed comic book paper that was getting thrown out and other things, so that's really fun, and I like to help pick out the pictures there. It's like a little craft thing. So be sure to check that out. Hope you all have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.